Welcome to the Pipeline award-winning show. As always, I am your host, Jason Gibbs. You can find me on X at Pipeline_. You can find me coming through your screen right now. Week 7. How many times have we said this? Another huge week on tap for college football. But let me bring in my guy, Roy. And Roy, if I can get you, there you are. Hi.
Yeah. Sorry.
Obviously, I'm still homeless. The cinnamon salad is out of control. I can't afford a haircut. We need you to cook up one of your classic parlays that I can then hedge master at the end of the day, just so I can get back in my house and get a haircut.
All right, so I'm cooking up a parlay right now. I do have an active bet that has got all my attention, not related to college football, of course, but we can spin it in that way. So former Penn State Nittany Lions Saquon Barkley is taking the field today against the Giants. I need him to rush for 25 yards each half.
Okay.
25 yards each half. So for anybody watching,
that'll like set the tone for the weekend. We'll let you cook up your parlay at the end of the show.
I will not be including the Friday game, so yes, you can do that.
All right. Well, actually, let's get started on the Friday games. That's a perfect segue. And the top 25 Pipeline, top 25 map poll, the most accurate poll. We have the best in the business, the most knowledgeable ball knowers, elite data crunchers, and we have both these teams ranked. The AP does not, but we have both these teams ranked, and it seems like Vegas agrees with us. South Florida at North Texas. Who would have thought at the beginning of the year this would be a pretty big game, to be honest? South Florida 1-0 in the American. North Texas 1-0 in the American. North Texas, the mean green, of course, undefeated, led by your guy, one of the best, at least statistically speaking, and maybe even just in general, best guys and best quarterbacks in college football, Drew Mestamaker. I need to come up with some sort of nickname. That's just begging for one. North Texas -1.5. Roy, what do we think about this one? Great game.
Essentially a toss-up. You know, you've got this explosive offense in North Texas, has been the last couple of years. You've got South Florida, of course, having more national televised kind of exposure, so more of America knows them. You know, they had the Boise State opener. They obviously had the Florida Thriller, the Miami, unfortunate battle for the number one.
Their only loss in the season, number 2 Miami.
Quite a loss, though. I mean, they were heavily just dominated.
Right.
Also fun fact about South Florida I learned over on the Twitter machine, so take that for what it's worth. The reason they are called South Florida was actually named after a cattle rancher that was a huge donor.
Okay.
To start the college,
Mr. South.
His last name was South. Yes. His last name was South. Hence why they are the Bulls, because he was a cattle rancher.
Oh, perfect.
So it is actually not about so it's actually not about geographical location. I believe his name was John South. So the most fake fact thing we could find on Twitter, but I'm going to go with it. I think it's true.
I'm going to have Pipeline Stats and Info cross-check that. That seems a little AI generated, but we'll go with it for this award-winning show. But yeah, back to the game.
Yeah. Sorry.
This North Texas to me has a huge opportunity here. We have them ranked 23rd in our poll, the correct poll, by the way. Yeah. To be able to go to 6-0, beat another ranked team, South Florida, go 2-0 in the American. They're obviously going to have a leg up in the American, be undefeated, could really set up their season, maybe making a miraculous push. I don't know what the preseason odds were for them to make the college football playoffs, but I can't imagine they were high or low, so to speak. But it really sets up, and having it at home, 1.5-point favorites. I'm leaning mean green. Maybe that's a little bit of my heart because I kind of want them to win. No slight at South Florida, but I just kind of, everybody loves those Cinderella stories, and I think this would be one.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a fun one regardless. I mean,
total 66.5. So expect some points.
You do have a superstar in USF's Brown at the quarterback. He is their leading passer and rusher. So you've got a one man wrecking crew over there. North Texas does spread the ball around quite a bit, so
Mhm.
they've got just good solid players in their system to break open big plays. But I mean, the competitive advantage here does lean towards South Florida because of the competition they've faced, right?
True. They are battle
You're
tested. I mean, no matter what kind of crowd is going to show up in North Texas, it's not going to
yeah,
usurp them going into the swamp and
right.
beating a Florida team. And that crowd is notoriously tough to play in front of. So, yes, to your point, also want to highlight Chaz Nimrod for South Florida, 421 yards in the year, 3 touchdowns. So, as you said, playmakers kind of on both sides of the ball, which defense can kind of come up with a stand. And I want North Texas, but I'm definitely not betting it. I think I'm going to sit back and just enjoy this one.
I will pick North Texas just to see if John South rolls around in his grave over it. The explosiveness with their team, they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
Like you said, that place is going to be rocking. I mean, it's kind of odd to say, but it's going to be rocking tomorrow. I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on it. And there is a lot of pressure on South Florida here to
Mhm.
actually perform. Some of the pressure does shift to them, whereas North Texas, they're kind of playing with a little bit of house money
Yeah,
here.
a little bit of house money here.
Um,
Yep.
you've got also an interesting caveat here is Navy is in a 3-0 position in the American as well.
Mm,
So you find yourself at 1-1 with Navy potentially coming in 4-0 playing Temple this weekend.
right.
Potentially at the end of this weekend, you'll be, kind of a few games behind Navy
Already.
just by, scheduling. But Navy still has to play both of these teams, but it becomes a bit uphill battle from here as it's kind of a 3 to 4 team race in the American.
And losing this game, you're starting to lose out on tiebreakers. So it'll be a good one to say the least.
I'm actually really impressed with the American. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got some quality teams in there that historically college football fans have always loved, like in East Carolina, back
Yep.
in the day and all that.
Go
But
Pirates.
you,
Yep.
you got Tulane and Tulsa and
Army
just
Navy, same
I mean,
conference.
it's
Yeah.
Memphis.
Another good
It's a
team this year.
so this is a very important game because you got to think one of these teams slips up again in that type of schedule. So it'll be
Yeah, so
rocking.
we've had these titanic matchups all over the schedule this year. It seems seemingly every week something crazy is happening. Maybe more so this year than ever before. I'd have to go back and check, but yes, that American Conference, just sneaky, great football, good, solid teams. Can one of them slip into the playoffs? We'll see. But let's turn the page to Saturday. Big noon, right off the bat, big noon. And we're going the Ohio State Buckeyes at the Illinois Fighting Illini. Roy, how about one of the most underrated units in the entire country? And I'm, of course, talking about the Buckeye defense.
Yeah.
Headlines all go to the offense, Julian Super Saiyan, Jeremiah Smith, and so on and so forth, all the playmakers. But that Buckeye defense has only allowed 2 touchdowns the entire year. The
Mhm.
last one back in week 3 versus Ohio. Total 49 and a half. We kind of have like two hardcore forces. We have the Buckeye defense and then that high-flying Illini offense that can put up some major points. I think they had over 500 yards last victory. Bo Jackson, seems like I've heard that name before, at running back for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Doing pretty well. I still don't love the Buckeyes run game, but this is going to be an interesting matchup. I think Ohio State, they're obviously favored by quite a bit, more north of 2 touchdowns, 14 and a half.
Yeah.
And that right there kind of tells me, I mean, obviously odds makers are saying, okay, yeah, this is Ohio State's really favored, but going on the road to the Illini and still being favored north of that with a relatively low total, they're telling me that the Buckeyes defense is going to shut this Illini offense down.
Yeah, I mean, 14.5 is a spread. You've got just a massive amount of um, money pouring into Ohio State, even with that spread. I think it's like almost 70%. So, which is not uncommon given Ohio State's
Yeah,
name and brand and
sure.
all that stuff. The thing you worry about if you're Illinois, of course, is is Indiana looks like an elite team.
Mm-hmm.
So the last time you played an elite team, you
You didn't
got
just get beat; you
you,
got
you
destroyed into
were
oblivion.
Miami versus South Florida. So
Right.
you know the the appearance here, the opportunity is presents itself again for
Sure.
Illinois to prove that they are for real, that was kind of a fluke and the Hoosiers are. I don't see it. The teams that Illinois has really done well against, they are not as obviously as physical as Ohio
Mm.
State. Not many teams in the country are, but you can get beaten up pretty good. However, on the flip side, it is up to that Illinois defense if they can control
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State, which Ohio State's offense does get a lot of headlines for their superstars, but they really have kind of underperformed. I would
Yeah.
dare I say. Um,
I can't tell if they've underperformed or if they're performing just enough to win the game handily and then save some for later in the year. I can't tell. I feel like it's a little bit of the latter, but that's a guess. So we'll just land on that they're underperforming right now. When the stakes get moved higher, and I think they're moved a little bit higher this week, facing Illinois versus like I just mentioned, an Ohio of Ohio.
mhm.
So we'll see how it plays out. But that game, coupled with another noon game, Alabama at Missouri, an 11 o'clock local kickoff time. We've talked about Ty for your service, Simpson, the Theismann Award, the Heisman Award, but Missouri has maybe the best 1-2 kind of backfield in the country. My guy, Bo Prabula, and Ahmad Hardy, one of the best running backs. He probably should be in the Heisman if the Heisman were a real award. 730 yards on the ground this year, 9 touchdowns. We've seen Alabama this year, even though they've bounced back from that Florida State loss, we've seen them be sometimes susceptible to the run. How that will play out, I think, will go a long ways. Tied, depending on where you see it, 2.5, 3.5 point spread. So we're right there at a 3.4 point spread. So
This data point that I'm about to give you forces me to share my screen, which I've had to close down some black and yellow sites to do this. So this is gonna this. Derek, you're sitting down in your corner. I can
yes,
see your hair
I'm
is
up
ready.
corner.
The money on this game is 98% Missouri.
Wait, that's spread or money
That's
line?
spread. That is
Okay.
spread. 98% of the money,
Mm-hmm.
which, we are 2 days out. And
Yeah.
this stuff is pretty sharp money is on it. Big money is on it. 64% of the bets are on them, and 98% of the money is on Missouri. They have steamed it down from 6.5 to 3.5.
Yeah, that's quite a drop. I mean, we're crossing not necessarily key numbers, but secondary key numbers, if you want to say the 6 and the 4. I think with Coach Eli Drinkwitz, I think the Tigers are just sitting there ready for something to prove. Now, their strength of schedule, I think, is like 103. It's not great. The
Right.
teams they have played, they have absolutely blown out, which they should have. But Bama comes in battle tested. I don't think there's going to be a letdown. But if there were, this might be the spot. They obviously had the revenge game versus Vandy last week. This game on the road, Columbia, Missouri, Como, I like it, but I'm going to lean Tigers plus 3.5. I'm going to take them here. If it got steamed down to 2.5, I'd probably hedge. take advice from the hedge master himself and maybe get a double payout. But how do you see this shaking out?
So to me, the biggest advantage that I see right now for Alabama is that this is a noon kickoff. That if the environment is not going to be nearly as electric as it was
if it were
a
nighttime
prime time game,
yeah.
which it should be a prime time game, to be
Yeah.
honest. So I think Alabama gets a slight edge there. However, in the past, if you follow this Missouri team, these early kickoff games is kind of where they've done their sneaky upset damage. Now they're not going to sneak up on Alabama on this, as highly ranked as they've been, and the exposure they've gotten over the last few years. But they have been able to beat. I know Florida has gone in there and lost a few times at this early kickoff. To me, Bama has got to stop with these slow starts. They go fast start, slow start, fast start, slow start. They can't just have a consistent showing throughout the whole game. They're like two different teams in both halves. And you can even argue in the Florida State game, their first half was abysmal outside of their opening drive. Then the second half, they turned it on and almost pulled off a comeback. And then obviously the Georgia game, we can go on and on. So for Bama, they cannot afford to get behind a Missouri team that can run the ball efficiently.
Yeah.
Because though Missouri does like to play fast, they are smart. Their coach is smart. They know that they can drag it out if they need to. And that's basically what they did against South Carolina early on in the season. They got a lead, they dragged it off, and then they started getting some big plays. Sellers just couldn't quite get going. And by the end of the game, the running game was just too much, and they cracked. Now, Bama's not exactly going to crack in the running game, but it's also not kind of discount here that Georgia catches that touchdown pass. The whole view on Bama
has changed,
very different.
Especially if Georgia catches that, Bama has 2 losses. We're not even remotely talking about them at this point for the playoffs. Right now, we're saying, oh, maybe they could be in one of the top. Maybe they could win the SEC, whatever. So, yes, they've operated on that kind of razor thin margin. Even the Vandy game, there was the late touchdown that made the game sort of seem out of hand. But let's not lose the fact that Vandy did drive the field and turn the ball over twice in the red zone. A field goal there, a touchdown there, totally different game. So the score didn't quite indicate how tough that Vandy game was. And I know Bama fans were eager to kind of crap on them because, of course, Vandy upset Alabama last year. So I don't think they wanted to give them the credit that they deserved. Like I said, even though they lost with the late conspiracy theory-esque touchdown. But yes, 11 o'clock might be a sleepy crowd, maybe, but it might be a sleepy team, maybe. They're gonna, even though Purbulis played well, Alabama has the edge at quarterback. Simpson really loves working the middle of that field. Doesn't really work the outside as much, but he does have the weapons out there, of course, Bernard and Williams. Can they also get that running game going that's kind of sputtered at times this year? Will be interesting to see. But we have those top 2 matchups at the noon spot, Roy. Right into it at 3:30, we have 2 more great matchups. Indiana and your boy, friend of the program, Kirk Signetti, traveling to the zoo in Autzen, Oregon. Both teams 5-0, both teams 2-0 in the Big Ten. Dante Moore looking like a Heisman winner, 14 touchdowns, 1 interception for the Ducks, 1,200 yards. IU, we got our guy, Fernando Mendoza. I'm queuing up the ABBA as we speak. Can the Ducks, 7.5-point favorites, total relatively lowish, considering we kind of always think of Oregon as being a little bit more high-scoring team. But that Indiana defensive line, absolutely stout, absolutely can be wrecking balls. Can they get enough pressure on Moore to slow the Ducks down and the Hoosiers pull the upset?
So, Oregon, to me, is still a bit unproven given what Penn State just did last week.
Mm.
Um, that environment at the whiteout, you can't deny that that was a big time win. And, for all intents and purposes, the overtime should not have happened. They were up 2 scores in the
Yep.
fourth quarter. They let that one slip away. However, to see what UCLA just did to Penn State, you expect that from Oregon against
Right.
Penn State.
Yeah.
High flying offense, big chunk plays. You just never got that feel that I don't know if they were intimidated by the crowd. Anybody would be intimidated by that crowd. So, to me, if you don't have these chunk plays in your arsenal, like we're used to in past Oregon teams, you're playing a team that does have these type of explosive plays built in. So, if Indiana can get it going, um, I think we can all agree that Indiana's offense is probably far superior than Penn State's offense.
Mm.
And probably one of the top offenses in the Big Ten, if not the top offense. So, big opportunity here for Indiana. To me, I like the Hoosiers to cover and potentially do the upset in Outson and kind of turn the Big Ten on its head a little bit here. Well, are these teams as good as what we think? It's especially if that earlier game with Ohio State and Illinois is a lot closer than
The
people
experts think.
expect.
Yeah.
That could be an opportunity here for Indiana to really vault itself up even higher and also maybe cost the Big Ten a potential playoff spot with the weakness showing.
So Indiana obviously made the playoffs last year, but you could argue they arrived last year. Winning on the road at Oregon, I think that would be their actual arrival point because you couldn't hide at that point behind like last year. You could argue they had a weaker schedule. That much
I
is.
don't think you could argue. I think it was just. I mean, it
I'm being
was
generous here. Because
okay.
I don't want to
Yeah.
upset friend of the program Kirk Signetti. So he will definitely come to my house and throw a meatball at me. But going on the road, tough environment. Let's not forget the same exact scenario happened last year. Ohio State goes on the road and loses at Autzen. They go on to win the national title.
Yeah.
So if Indiana went there and won, obviously it doesn't guarantee them the national title, but you are going to have a significant, probably maybe program defining win, at least in the regular season. I like it too. It's plus 7.5 just seems tantalizing. We'll see if they can actually cover it. I think that defensive line is really going to have to contain Dante Moore and his scrambling ability. But
the line has been steamed down from 14. The money has been on Oregon.
Yeah. And it's been steamed down. Interesting.
So take that for what you will.
Mm.
Holding above the number now, 7.5.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get it steamed down to the number. Maybe a little bit of reverse line movement. And another 3:30 start. Red River Shootout. Oklahoma at Tech. Well, not at. They're obviously at the Cotton Bowl. John Mateer, can he actually play? The line's kind of been fluctuating. It seems that maybe he will. But pretty interesting stat. Oklahoma, one of the worst teams in the country, believe it or not, at running the ball. Texas, I know they've fallen off. We obviously had underperformance from Arch Manning and so on and so forth. A lot of their playmakers haven't been able to make plays, partially because Arch can't get in the ball at times. So that defense, though, is stout. Remember, it held, yes, it was the beginning of the year, but it held Ohio State to only 14 points. And we've already talked about some of their playmakers. This is very interesting. The total pretty low, 43.5. I actually think I like the under here.
Wow.
OU minus 1.5. I know sometimes you can throw the records out when it comes to this game, and these type of rivalry games. Here's the case as well. But, man, Texas, disappointing season so far. They would love nothing better than to torpedo their arch rivals. Sooners, how do you see this one playing out?
Well, the line basically has it as a pick 'em, right? -1 for Texas. That opened at -9.5, of course, because of the injury stuff. But still, even with that, it was a bit of a surprising opening line to me. I think it's a public trap to back old Oklahoma here. I mean, they are
Mm,
just begging you
yeah.
to take Oklahoma. I mean, it is, and it could eventually work out. But to me, it is setting up for one of those classic traps where recency bias does end up biting people in the tail.
Hmm.
These games do tend to, as all big rivalry games do, but do tend to be legacy games for some up and
Yeah.
coming quarterbacks. Um, no one can ever forget Caleb Williams and subbing in and that side of it.
Baker
And even,
Mayfield, we've seen
yeah,
it. We've seen it, that type of stuff time and time again in this exact matchup. Arch Manning can make all of the doubters, and we've seen some actually horrible articles coming out on him this week saying he's
yeah.
the first college flop. I don't even know what that means, but um, is he like the biggest, the worst guy? He's been there. What has he started? 5 games, 6 games. I mean, give him a
Yeah.
little bit of a break. Yeah, you pushed him up as high as you could, and then just so you could tear him down back to the same level. But Arch comes in, delivers a good performance. I've not bet my life on it, but if he does, a lot of that stuff gets wiped away.
Yeah, and I mean, I think what we're finding out as gambling has been even more prevalent in sports, you're getting the true casual fans showing their
Mm-hmm.
their side with this comments on Arch Manning and things like that, and you know we won't get into the whiteout and all that nonsense, but
Right.
the Arch Manning side of things to me is it is 6 games he's started. I still think anybody in the country would like him on their team as their quarterback potentially in this position. He's going to learn. He's got to learn. And the thing about it, I mean, even if you go back to Eli and Peyton, early on in their college careers, they were good, but they weren't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily the best on the field. And this guy had started, and they wanted him to be the best in the country, and a lot of that is social media, of course, and the
Yep.
last name is huge, and the
Yep.
Saints are tanking for him, and now the Saints have wised up and they started winning.
So,
So
you know what?
you're
Let's turn this thing around. Hold on a minute.
so but back to the game. I do like Texas here. I think they
Yeah.
will. It'll be a sock 'em, drag 'em out.
Mm.
If it's a shootout, Texas loses. You can't
Yeah.
be in a shootout. Yeah.
No.
So it
Log it
reminds
up,
me of,
muck it up. Yeah.
yeah, and
Texas victory.
look at Oklahoma here too. They can probably, if there was a team that's pretty similar to Texas right now, it's Michigan, right?
Mm.
Unproven quarterback and a very stout defense. So there you go. Just go back to that film and see what happened. And outside of a huge run from Michigan, Oklahoma dominated the game, much to my chagrin, as I was on tilt trying to hit the over after Lane Kiffin screwed me out of $600. But to me, it's Texas. I will be betting on Texas. I think this is just a classic, just setup. If it doesn't
Yeah.
work out, it doesn't work out. But it does appear to be a setup.
Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, obviously, my dog Leia is chiming in with her thoughts. I think she's going Texas as well.
Way to dox your dog. Jeez.
I didn't tell you her last name, so
That's right.
you can at least narrow it down. She lives at the Airbnb that I work as a janitor at, so you can
Right.
narrow that down somewhat. But yeah, so you mentioned Michigan, and that's a great segue because we're going to talk about the night game. 2 night games that had, to me, interesting lines right out of the bat. Just one of those red flags, interesting, what's going on type lines. Michigan at USC, 7:30 start on NBC. Trojans -2.5, and we've seen Lincoln Riley complain this year about the travel. They obviously don't have to do that here. Michigan 2-0 in the Big Ten. Would be nice for them to get to 3-0 if you're a Wolverines fan, but they lose this game. They're 2-1. USC's kind of back on track. They'll probably hop back into the top 25. I'm not sure here. I mean, Trojans obviously led by Jaden Mayava, 1,500 over 1,500 yards passing, 11 touchdowns, only one interception. So USC's kind of faltering, and even when they like I said, even when they won against Michigan State, they weren't overly impressive. But their faltering hasn't been on the offensive side of the ball; it's been on the defensive side of the ball. And speaking of that, Michigan State team scored quite a bit of points at the Rose Bowl. Can Bryce Underwood always up to no good? Michigan,
Nice.
you referenced him earlier. Young quarterback go into a environment. I don't think it's going to be the same as what he faced at Oklahoma. It's not going to be that rabid, but it'll be a on the road West Coast kind of environment. Can he get it done for the Wolverines? Remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean it's a fun matchup, but I don't necessarily think it's leans one side or the other. You look at USC; their only losses at Illinois, early kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then you follow that game; they were behind pretty quick, and then kind of made a run there at the end, and should have. You could argue they could have won the game. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a lot of mishaps there at the end that eventually went Illinois' way, but it was close, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they kept fighting and kept fighting. So with that, I mean, the grit there has been shown by USC. I do think USC pulls it out in a close one. I don't know if anyone can be a big believer in this Michigan team. Wisconsin down year. That was an interesting
Mm-hmm.
game last week for a lot of
Very
different reasons.
lots of different reasons.
Oklahoma game, we referenced it earlier. They really weren't that much into it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
had a big run, but just never really could get closer. So many third and fourth downs missed on that, bad throws and pressured
Mm-hmm.
quarterbacks. So, but from an athletic standpoint, USC has always got the athletes to make big plays on offense and defense. They just don't really. Both of these teams don't really have that kind of huge expectation. So one being unranked and one being ranked 15th to me is kind of irrelevant. I'm going to take the Trojans at home to upset, quote unquote.
Well,
Michigan.
based on rankings, but yeah, they are the favorite. I'm with you. I'm going Trojans 2.5.
Yeah.
And I mentioned another spread. We'll wrap it up on this before you cook up your Roy Classic parlay to get us out of debt. Your Fighting Mormons going to Arizona. BYU only -1.5. Very low total here, 47.5. Are we looking? I right off the bat, just looking at the line, looking at nothing else. I'm not even going to dive into the numbers. I like that zone of +1.5. This is another example of me of Vegas begging you to take the Fighting Mormons.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's tough to take road teams in college football. It's even more difficult when they're a higher ranked team and basically a pick 'em.
Yeah.
That makes it like that's kind of like that recipe talking about cooking is not for a good bet. I have lost many of monies on that. Sharp action is on Arizona. Money is on Arizona. 63% of the bets, 84% of the money. +1.5. So you do get a little bit of a hook there. If even if they do lose, they could lose
Mm-hmm.
by a point. Yeah, I got to skip the Mormons this week. I'm probably a diehard Mormon fan, but the you gotta skip the Mormons, and to
Yeah.
me, again, another fun game. 8 o'clock though. I don't like that it overlaps. Georgia, Auburn, LSU,
Yeah.
South Carolina, obviously Michigan, USC.
Yeah. Prefer it to be a
Stay
little
up
bit
early.
later. Get that old school Pac-12 after dark kickoff time. I'd love that one. I will say this about BYU. Bear Bachmeyer playing well, over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, only one interception. Running the ball well, over 200 yards, 5 touchdowns running the ball. Couple of really solid, really solid wide receivers for the Mormons. Chase Roberts and Parker Kingston. Parker Kingston is absolute blazer. Small guy. Listen, I don't have this on high authority, but if somehow the Patriots draft Parker Kingston and put him in the slot, I feel like Tom Brady will come out of retirement just to throw to him. Reminds me of that Julian Edelman's small white slot guy, just ready to make plays. I think he might be faster than Edelman, at least on tape. I haven't seen them run, I haven't seen actual 40 times.
Former quarterback Edelman.
Former Kent State quarterback Julian Edelman. Yeah. True.
Yeah. That's why he's not as
fast. That's true. So I'm with you, though. As much as I like those two playmakers on the outside for the Cougs, I'm going to go Arizona here, plus 1.5. I really like that. I see the sharp money's coming in on them. I just think it's another, like I said, another scenario where Vegas begging you to take the ranked team against the unranked team on the road.
So you've got a kind of a host of these, and I kind of want to run through them real quick because they're going to be a part of a parlay. So I'm going to give you real quick. Utah minus 5.5 at home against number 21 Arizona State.
Mm-hmm.
You've got BYU on the Arizona plus 1.5. Basically, we'll call it a pick'em against BYU.
That's terrible gambling, but sure, we can call it a pick'em. Yes.
Yes. By the time I get to it.
Wait. I really hope BYU wins by 1 point so I can come back and reference this point.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to dox your cat. The USC at home against ranked Michigan. Auburn plus 3.5 against Georgia at home, hosting Georgia. We didn't mention that game, but time constraints, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got Colorado at home plus 2.5 against Iowa State.
Yeah.
You've got obviously the Red River Shootout. We'll throw that out. Yeah, I mean overall, and then if you want to throw in tonight's game. North Texas is not ranked according to the AP, but basically should be.
It's tomorrow night's game, but sure. Friday night.
You got quite a bit of potential upsets, but upsets that Vegas they're not really seeing as upsets.
Right.
So just close, good, solid games. So I got to cook up a parlay here on the spot. Let me just do something real quick.
And I will say this while you're cooking. I will say this. This has a potential to be an obviously great games, but really throw a tumultuous one of those, what do they call those, red weeks, where so many ranked teams go down and is kind of sitting right there. We'll see how it plays out. Not many enormous spreads, obviously some. This is college football, there's going to be, but there's not a lot of ranked teams. I think Ole Miss might be the only one that's like hugely favored to 31.5. But yeah, games that are seemingly go either way. And we didn't even mention it, even though LSU's hosting South Carolina 9.5. We'll have to see how Garrett Nussmeier, if he's healthy, if Lenore Sellers could put on that Superman cape. But yeah, a great week of college football that we're going to also profit from and get out of this Airbnb janitorial job. And get a haircut.
My upset of the week.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to do a parlay of the week. I'm going to do the upset of the week.
Okay.
The
dog.
Nebraska versus Maryland. Maryland at home is a plus 6.5 point dog.
Mm-hmm.
Not only will I take the points, I will take the money line. Maryland beats Nebraska to snap Nebraska's national title hopes a little bit later in the season than they're normally used to.
Right. That's interesting. We didn't mention that game, but that is definitely interesting.
There was a heartbreak with last week with Maryland's money line for me. They did cover though, because great teams cover.
Great teams cover.
Washington.
Up 20-0 to lose 24-20. You had to think you had to be feeling good if you had their money line. If you had the +7, you were golden no matter what. But yes, it was a little bit of a heartbreak. I was kind of hoping for Maryland in that game, in that it would have vaulted them into that kind of national picture. A lot of ball knowers like me and yourself knew about them, knew they were moving in the right direction. If they could have added that kind of signature win against Washington, would have gone a long ways. They didn't. They can maybe hop back on the train this week against Nebraska.
Yeah, you beat Nebraska in the middle of a red week that we potentially see. You could sneak into that top 25. Next week, you've got, the team that's resurrected their entire season in UCLA. You've got Indiana, who could potentially be top 3 in the country after this
This
week.
week. Yep.
At Rutgers, at Illinois, home to Michigan, and then at home to Michigan State. So if Maryland, believe it or not, has a setup here that could be a pretty good showdown against Indiana, it could really define their season.
I mean, you're talking about they're dodging,
thoughts?
of course, Ohio State. They're dodging Oregon. They're dodging some of the
Penn State, but I don't
yeah.
know that's a dodge anymore.
Well, I mean, Penn State still has talent. I know they're kind of down on their luck. Might be an interesting fade in the very, very near future. But we're going to win it all back this week. Anything we lost in last week's parlay, we're going to win it all back. We're going to go with Maryland outright.
Maryland outright, money line. Put your house on it.
I could put my house on the money line.
Not financial advice.
This is not financial advice. Yes. Yes, please. I don't know if we can flash that disclaimer up. We'll have to talk to Pipeline Stats and Info to please flash disclaimers up every time we speak of these things. But I do think that's going to put a bow on it. We're going to wrap up this edition of Pipeline Award-winning show. Make sure you tell your friends, your family, your lovers. Hopefully it's not all the same people. And we'll see you guys next time.